Thanks for joining us on the program. Welcome. Socialization is said begins from the cradle to the grave. How time flies, I must say. This is the case of the late Chief Ojo Maduekwe, former Minister of Foreign Affairs, former Minister of Transportation, former Minister of Culture and Tourism, and former National Secretary of the People's Democratic Party, the PDP. So many formers I cannot mention here, all in the service to his fatherland, the Federal Republic of Nigeria. His last and very recent tour of duty was to Canada, where he served as Nigeria's High Commissioner to that country. Chief Ojo Maduekwe, a couple of weeks before he passed away, was guest on Diplomatic Ties. All he said and answered to in the program remains very relevant to the national and global discourse. In remembering Chief Ojo Maduekwe, we devote Diplomatic Ties to him with a repeat of the session we had with him on that day. Stay on for the program. As Nigeria's High Commissioner to Canada, you said Nigeria's economy will go beyond the top 20 economies in the world. Do you still stand by this?
I'm even more confident about it today. If you look at the Price Waterhouse report, probably just a few days ago, it was very, very, very affirmative about that. By the year 2050, will be the 9th biggest economy in the world, exceeding Germany, United Kingdom, and so on and so forth. These are serious analysis. The young people particularly, this one hope, because amongst our young people, and Nigeria is a very young population, with probably about 170 million people, over 100 million below the age of 25. So that's a huge advantage. The demographic is a huge advantage in terms of energy, creativity, entrepreneurial spirit, and I'm convinced that the talent and creativity of these young people, which we're already seeing in Nollywood, and we're seeing it in the startup companies many of these young people are entering into. We're seeing it in fashion, we're seeing it in all kinds of enterprises that are coming up in IT and so on and so forth. It's big. It's big, and I'm convinced that with peace and with deepened democratic order, greater levels of accountability in terms of government responsibility to the people who have elected them, Nigeria inevitably is heading only in one direction, and that's the direction of greatness and extraordinary prosperity.
Okay. When you made that statement, then you were speaking on your capacity as Nigeria's High Commissioner to Canada, and some expected that days or months or years after you leave office, you will not sustain this position. Some felt you were playing politics with it. So, will it be a shocker to them that you have sustained this position today?
No, it shouldn't be. Only those who don't really know me. For me, the nation trumps every other thing else. The nation trumps party. The nation, of course, is even higher than those who sent me to be a High Commissioner Ambassador, or who made me minister. I'm loyal to all the 3 presidents I served. And if I include the months I was in Canada after President Buhari emerged, I can also, as part of my bragging rights, say I have served 4 presidents, including President Buhari. And anybody who knew my role since 1999 until I finished my work in Canada, October last year, we testified that Ojo Maduekwe did not always tell his bosses what they wanted to hear. But invariably, in all cases, they trusted my integrity, they trusted my sincerity and loyalty. So I mean what I'm saying, even more so now as a private citizen, that Nigeria is in the right direction.
So now, in the global space, given your statement, how do we stand? if that really comes to play? Does it jack up our platform, our profile as a country?
The first is that we got a lot of kudos last year for a peaceful transition from a ruling party that have been in government for 16 years to an opposition party. Apparently this was the first time in the history of Nigeria. And if you looked at the stocks, at that time the stocks went up. There was a lot of excitement about Nigeria. I believe that that excitement is still there. What needs to be done is to sustain it by, because the fight against corruption is quite in order and there's need for that. And I think many people have also contended, and rightly so, that that fight against corruption has to also move with all kinds of creative strategies towards growing the economy. And I believe that the recent economic summit the president has called for is in the right direction. It's intended, I'm sure, to harness all the ideas, all the suggestions. So in a democratic order, we can, as much as possible, have inputs that will ensure that once government takes certain decisions in the direction of the economy, everybody will feel a commitment to head there. So all this again make me feel quite confident that no matter what maybe the bumpy rides, every journey involves of bumpy rides, and every transition also has its challenges, including this one. But I think, as I've always urged, even in previous capacities, even under previous presidents, and even under the former ruling party, which I had the privilege of serving as National Secretary even, and also serving as Cabinet leader for 7 years, we have to learn to see the glass more half full than empty, than half empty.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, as former Foreign Affairs Minister, what is your assessment of Nigeria's foreign affairs policy position today, given recent global engagements by President Muhammadu Buhari?
Foreign policy is always a manifestation of the robustness of the domestic agenda, domestic policy, and the domestic environment. It doesn't matter what you say globally outside. The issue comes back to what's happening at home in terms of the economy, in terms of security, in terms of inclusiveness, the rule of law, and of course the issue of transparency continues to loom very, very large all the time. And I believe that to the extent the government is able to walk its talk, to the extent that the government remains committed to the elements of change, the principles that drove the change message that it came with, and which made Nigerians vote the government in, our foreign policy will be able to draw inspiration from that, and will remain dynamic, coherent, credible, and respected. First of all, I think the government has its work cut out for it, because no matter the challenges at home, the compass of our foreign policy has remained constant, right from independence, even pre-independence time. Particularly under Tafawa Balewa, who was the first prime minister, it was decided that Africa would be the centerpiece of our foreign policy. You may have had some variations of that centerpiece thing, but Africa remained the focus. Like when I came in as foreign minister, I talked about citizen diplomacy. It was not to alter the fundamentals of our foreign policy, to say, yes, Africa, but Africa shouldn't be an abstraction. Africa should be in terms of the prism, P-R-I-S-M, or lenses if you want, the lenses of the Nigerian citizen. So if we are going to engage in Liberia, in Sierra Leone, or much as we did in Congo, it should be, at the end of the day, how does it benefit the Nigerian citizen? It was not a change of our foreign policy. Others have come in and talked about economic diplomacy, investment diplomacy, concert of medium powers, and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, without my being proprietary about it, It's about the Nigerian citizen. That's why I did say that citizen diplomacy is the last bus stop. Okay. Because it summarizes everything, because everything is really about the citizen. So I believe that whatever may be the variation, every foreign minister has a right, need a privilege to come with his own rhythm, with his own song, with his own doctrine, so to speak. You are not bound to. You may decide a new doctrine may be a distraction. A new doctrine might create challenges which you feel there are other things you want to do with your time, rather than explain what is citizen diplomacy. So that there may be some wisdom in saying you will not call any kind of diplomacy whatever, other than come and implement what you made. That's a decision. Okay. But because how we came in, when we came in, and I felt that there was need, because of the insults on the Nigerian all over the world, that the green passport was becoming not a badge of dignity, but a badge of desire. Let's restore the pride of the Nigerian citizen, restore the image of the Nigerian citizen, and to do that through strong domestic policies that impact on our foreign policy. And I believe that, I am confident that the foreign policy under this administration, so long as it keys into the promise of change, will remain strong, credible, and appreciated globally.
Okay. From what you said, some people viewed it differently. So those who maybe feel they are the critics of this administration. They felt
every government is entitled to its.
Some people just felt that Mr. President went on some kind of globe-trotting and just not.
It's not new. We had that before.
Okay. So what can you say on this?
It's such criticisms, especially when they do not go into the details of what these foreign trips are all about, are not fair. They are not fair only to the president or to the administration as part of. They are not fair to the national interests of Nigeria. Come on, this is a very important country. However we look at ourselves, the rest of the world take us quite serious. So, do we want a Nigerian retreat? No. Do we want a Nigeria that will diminish in its, even in its neighborhood relevance? No. As somebody could say, yeah, at the end of the day, does it put food on the table? I'll say yes. Because if you engage the world, it brings investments. If you engage the world, you protect Nigerian citizens all over the world. The remittances being sent to Nigeria by Nigerians, apart from oil, could well be our biggest source of revenue. So I don't believe that the president trips are a waste of time or a waste of resources. Only those who maybe have not had the privilege, either as president or foreign minister or indeed any other minister, to go on this trip will think that it's for fun. There are times you don't want to make the trip. There are many, many times. Even as foreign minister, there were times I just didn't want to travel. But it was clear that as foreign minister, I had to be there. Otherwise, Nigeria will be missing. And if that can be said about a foreign minister, it's even more so for a president. He may be there at the plenary, he may be there at the general debate and all that. But when it comes to time for conspiracy, okay, and conspiracy and power are linked. Come on. Even if they do invite you, on the occasion I was invited as foreign minister to join presidents in groups to discuss certain sensitive issues. But you have to be extremely bold to now intervene and argue with the president. Invariably, what you'll be doing each time is say, well, as my president told me, supposing there have not been an opportunity for you and the president to discuss before that meeting, because the issue may just have come up. So you'll be silent for most of the time, and your country will suffer because of the lack of presence of your president. So I don't believe President Buhari's trips are unnecessary.
Excellent. Let me hold it there. Yeah. We'll continue to discuss after this time out. And my guest again is Chief Ojo Maduekwe. Let me quote you. You said recently in an interface I had with you that a responsible opposition is a government in waiting.
Oh, yes.
How do you mean it?
Because democracy is about choices. And because democracy is about choices, you cannot have a vibrant democracy if the political landscape is one in which, by whatever means, one party is so deeply entrenched that even when the public, the electorate, wish to effect a change, they find they cannot effect that change. That's dangerous. And one of the things PDP, which is my party, will always remain my party. I will always be PDP. I have no intention of going anywhere else. One of the things we take joy is that we facilitated, for the first time in the history of Nigeria, a long democratic reign, a long democratic space, a wide democratic space that ensured that the non-democratic actors, military and so on, didn't intervene again. And I believe democracy has come to stay. And of course, it climaxed with the fact that we presided over our own defeat, which I predicted in a 2004 lecture. And I was still in government then, a presidential advisor at the time. And I had the privilege of giving the Independence Day lecture in 2004, which was broadcast live to the whole country, instructed by President Obasanjo. And this was at the ECOWAS Center. And I said, the litmus test for democratic arrival is if the ruling party can theoretically preside over its defeat. And I said, it doesn't have to be a death wish that the ruling party voluntarily wants to, even if it wins, to say, no, we won't govern. No, it's to say, if the people of the country want to change you, don't do anything to stop that. So we can, part of our bragging rights is that because of the commitment to democracy by PDP, we now have an APC government. And if an APC government, in a way, is part of our own legacy as a responsible party in government, now we are in opposition. Our role as opposition should be a constructive opposition that we can disagree with government of the day without being disagreeable, that can address issues without attacking personalities. And there's a language of establishment. And as a opposition party, especially opposition party that have been in government, we are part of the establishment. And that's what is known as loyal opposition. So we should be a loyal opposition. Take a thing like privatization. You had the president's speech at the economic summit. He talked about the classic dilemma about privatization. Public interest versus profit motive. Whatever may be his reservation, he said, in the national interest, since the privatization policy has started, it has to be completed. That's statesmanship. Privatization was not started by the Buhari administration. They've only been there less than 1 year. It was started by the Obasanjo administration, by PDP government, and followed up by 2 other PDP presidents. But the president under IPC platform is looking at the national interest and say there seems to be a consensus there. The only thing that we have to do it more efficiently, maybe more transparently. So on those kind of issues, PDP in opposition should not just say they disagree for the sake of disagreeing.
Okay.
Foreign policy particularly belongs in that area.
Exactly.
There's a limit to how much we can try to deconstruct foreign policy just in order to score some points.
Okay.
So you come up with issues and programs that will make the people of Nigeria know that your approach is better than that of the party. And again, the people of Nigeria will decide, do they still want the party in government, or is it time to invite you now in opposition to come and be a ruling party? And the last thing I want to say about this is that sometimes a country may decide to change a government, not because it has not done well, just because they want change. I give you an example. Winston Churchill and his party rescued Britain from the clutches of Nazi Germany, from humiliation, from defeat. Brave man, heroic man, he was awesome. At the end of the Second World War, as Britain got victory, what was the response of the electorate? They voted his party out of power. From being prime minister of a victorious Britain, he now went into position as leader of opposition. He was even lucky to still win his seat because of the parliamentary system they have there. Okay. The British now hate the party of Churchill? No. Not at all. It's just because they say, you've done well, you've enabled us win the war. But we want another party that will enable us now he may provide housing for us. But we think that party is better than the
Well,
so yeah, I think that's the same way in Nigeria. We should see what happened to PDP. For us, it shouldn't be about desperation to have power. Power without purpose becomes toxic.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, between the 8th to the 10th of March 2016, you were among Nigerians who attended the next Eastern Forum in Dakar, Senegal. And that Nigerian delegation was led by the Minister of Science and Technology. And I heard from the grapevine that you now say you do science diplomacy. How do you mix up this?
Well, I'm happy you asked that question. Again, it goes to show how Nigeria can benefit from its citizens, including those citizens that are not or no more in government. Because at the end of the day, for the period I served, which was the entire 16 years PDP was in power, which is a rare privilege to have been there continuously. I built quite some networks, especially at the international level. My last assignment, both as foreign minister and as high commissioner. Those networks were not built because I was so rich and I could take myself around all over the world. No, those networks were built because the taxpayer paid for it. The Nigerian taxpayer paid for it in terms of my salary and allowances and all that. And if Nigeria has so blessed me by giving me, through presidents, the opportunity to serve, then even now I am rightly call it an active retirement mode, because I'm now 70. Even if PDP had won, I wasn't going to be available to still remain in government. I had signaled that anyway. Now, it's time to use those networks to still develop Nigeria. So one of the networks is a good friend of mine. Briefly, I want to talk about Neo Turok. Neo Turok is a white South African whose father went to jail because the father supported Mandela. The father went to jail for 3 years. The mother joined for another 6 months. And they had to leave because they felt their life was in danger. And Neil, young Neil, arrived in London with the parents at the age of 7. From there, he went to Cambridge University and later on became professor of theoretical physics. So his father already reminded him he's an African. And because of that passion for Africa, because the father came back to South Africa and became member of parliament with Mandela and Winnie Mandela and all that. He's 85-year-old man. He's retired now, he's in Cape Town. So now Neil was invited by the founder of BlackBerry, who himself was a beneficiary of a robust mathematical program at University of Waterloo. The founder of BlackBerry, which is really the first smartphone, to now head the Center for Theoretical Physics, which is the biggest in the world now. It's bigger in the world, headed in Waterloo. And Neil said, on the condition you help me train PhDs in mathematics in Africa. And the two of them working together created the next Einstein initiative. So as I was leaving Canada, Neil Turok and some other friends hosted me to luncheon, where I spoke. And apparently based on my outing in that event, he asked me, could I serve on the board of the next Einstein Forum? Virtually everybody in the board there are mathematicians or physicists. And what it's all about, he said, is to train the future innovators in Africa, because mathematics is key to innovation. So I accepted to serve. They are in 4 countries in Africa. 2 will soon join, Rwanda and Tanzania this year. We don't have a center in Nigeria, and obviously we believe there will soon be one, because the Minister of Science and Technology, my good friend and first governor in Abia State, Dr. Bonionu, he attended the event because President Buhari was invited, and Buhari graciously asked Minister Bonionu to represent Nigeria in Senegal, because it was being hosted by the President of Senegal. Okay. And President Kagame of Rwanda was there. But about 1,000 scientists and mathematicians from all over the world came, so including many Nigerians.
Yes, so as a very last question,
yes,
sir, how beneficial is this to Nigeria?
That's a good question.
And also,
the President has talked quite eloquently and consistently about diversifying the economy, okay? The collapse in the oil prices. And I want to believe that we won't make the mistake of the past. When the oil price start coming up again, we go back to our bad old ways. No. this may be our last opportunity to get it right in terms of diversifying the economy, because oil is a finite resource. Okay, so now that, in a way, it's good news. The oil prices collapse is good news, because necessity is the mother of invention. And I believe that's what the president has in mind when he said you want to diversify the economy. Now, you can't diversify the economy without innovation. And central to the whole idea of innovation is mathematical science. So the AIMS, the next Einstein Forum, will create a new generation of mathematicians who will drive the innovation agenda in the university, in the industry, in creating of startup companies. Is a big thing. If it's not yet Nigerian, it's not yet African.
Okay.
So when AIMS come to establish a center in Nigeria, I believe it will do a lot to be a catalyst for the president's agenda for diversified economy, because he will now have more available for him world-class trained mathematicians. By the way, it's tuition free for PhDs and all that.
What?
Because there are grants from German government, Canadian government, United Kingdom government, and there's some partnership with Google, with virtually all the big players out there, Bill Gates and so on and so forth. That is, the idea is that particularly young people who are brilliant, they have to have first class anyway, mathematics, who are brilliant but may not have the means to go to the next level. AIMS. The AIMS means African Institute for Mathematical Science,
Okay.
also known as Next Einstein Initiative.
Right.
Because the idea is that Africa is the frontier for development in the world, for the next big thing in the world is going to come from Africa. And 100 years after Einstein, the next Einstein can come from Africa. And already these young people from Next Einstein Initiative are already discovering things, including there has been a breakthrough in a riddle in molecular biology about why certain viruses keep coming back. A fellow from Next Einstein from Cameroon with PhD mathematics organized by the Next Einstein has been able to find the answer to that.
Yep.
And I'm sure there are many Nigerian scientists. I have met some of them. One Tolu Oni, she's lecturing at Cape Town University.
Well,
she's done so much with what AIMS has done, and so on and so forth.
Let me just interject
I'm
here
honored to be on that platform.
and say that Nigeria is highly privileged to be on that platform through you, and I would not have been excited if I didn't ask you a question on this.
Okay.
We believe and hope that with you on the board of Einstein, Nigeria will really go a long way, and indeed Africa to benefit invaluably from it. Well, thank you so much, Your Excellency. We feature the late Chief Ojo Maduekwe in remembering who he was, what he contributed to the public governance process, specifically on diplomatic ties. Thanks you for being part of the program today. On behalf of all of us here, thanks for listening, and make it same time, same station next week. Bye-bye.